NASDAQ started the day down more than 1% as inflation fears gripped the market, but the index climbed all the way back, led higher by Intel, Tesla, and Apple. Well, joining us now is Dan Niles, Niles Investment Management founder and portfolio manager. Dan, good to see you. I actually want to start on Cisco, though, because it just reported it's one of the names that you're watching for the year, and one of the standout areas for them seems to be an area that you were watching. It's the data that's tied to this AI revolution. But I want to ask about exactly how investors should consider this, because I remember 20 years ago, John Chambers, when he was CEO of Cisco, was talking about how big a revolution video was going to be. It was going to be this transformative moment. It didn't do for Cisco's stock what investors might have expected. Cisco bought Flip Video when really maybe YouTube would have been the play. How should investors think about whether Cisco is going to continue to benefit here and what kind of acquisitions or investments they need to make?
Well, you took that question in a way that I wasn't expecting it to go, because I thought you would bring that back to, well, how should investors think of NVIDIA? Because it's a very similar question. Because Cisco obviously was, so back then there was this thing called the internet, you may have heard of it, and it became a big thing. And Cisco's stock is nowhere near where it was in 2000. Now you have this thing called AI, you may have heard of it, and you've got a similar thing going on with investment right now in terms of the infrastructure. But so we'll see where that goes. With regards to your question on Cisco, my basic thesis, because Cisco is one of my top 5 picks entering this year, and what I said was, look, the last 2 years have been about spending on AI infrastructure. This year, I think, is going to be more about companies getting access to all of that data being created and moving it around, which is why Cisco and Adtran, which is more on the telecom side, those were 2 of my top 5 picks, and both stocks are, given up for dead, much like Oracle was several years ago when I made that one of my top 5 picks. And it's gone from this, who cares about Oracle, to maybe it's a viable competitor in cloud data center. And I think that's how Cisco is going to transform. And at a 17 times PE, with the S&P trading at 26 times, if they've actually gotten their act together, I think, which I think they have because of some of the acquisitions they've made several years ago that are now helping them to produce very competitive products. You're seeing that in the order growth. Why can't a 17 times PE go to a market multiple or above, which is where Oracle's trading? And so that's how I think about Cisco. So
we started narrow on just Cisco. Let's go broad, talk about the market and the CPI print. It was about 50-50. I think you were saying some weeks ago whether the Fed would stand pat on rates or go higher versus cutting. Now you think the odds of them actually raising rates have increased after this report?
Yeah, I think the odds of them doing nothing to raising is, I started the year thinking it was near 50%. Now I think there's a 2/3 probability they do nothing or raise. And some of this comes down to, John, if I were to tell you, hey, I think CPI is going to be up 5% between now and year end, you'd be like, oh my God, it's a disaster. Well, that's what happened in 2021, where CPI went from 1.4% to 7%, and the S&P was up 27%. Because it isn't really when, things happen, it's how people react to it. And so the Fed was pretty clueless the first time around, where they were calling it transitory. And there was a group of us, including myself, saying there's no chance this is transitory. And when they figured out it wasn't, you had a problem, because then they had to play catch up. And if you think about it, CPI ended 2021 at 7%. It ended 2022 at 6.5, but the S&P was down 19. So it comes down to, when does Jerome Powell go, I might have a problem, because CPI has now gone up for 4 prints in a row in terms of headline. Core PCE, which is what they focus on, bottomed in June. It's been going up since then, not in a straight line, but it's higher. And all the 4 measures of inflation, core PCE, CPI, core CPI, et cetera, all of that either bottomed in June or in the 3rd quarter and has been going up. So I'm going to be very curious to see if Powell makes the same mistake twice. I don't think he will. Okay. And I think if you do one more print, you've got a problem.